become the 49th president of the United States.
I stood by Dwayne after the Tooth Fairy 6-episode event series. I'm sticking with him now.
Hey, if you smell what the Rock and smash his ass up can cook. Well, what the hell you did to your head, man? What's up, bro?
What's up?
Well, you always got something up your sleeve, but listen, if we gonna put that in the budget,
going.
we're gonna use that.
I'm keeping this wig. I'm keeping this. I'm back in the game. I'm back in the game with this.
Yes, sir.
So welcome to our folks who don't know us. We are hollering at the screen. My name is Jay Gregg. I'm a screenwriting professor and a screenwriter, and I'm all about story, structure, and I give my opinion from a screenwriter's point of view.
And it's your boy Essex O'Brien. I'm the actor. I'm all about what hits, what misses, and what should have stayed on the cutting room floor. Welcome to our first live review coming to y'all on a wonderful Saturday afternoon.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed. And we're here to talk about Smashing Machine.
The Smashing Machine. Now, full disclosure, I put that clip up because, you know, I had the privilege of being on the Rock show, but I'm going to put my bias aside. Now, I'm going to give you the 100% unbiased. Just because the man dropped a little money in my pocket, that don't mean I'm going to pull my punches.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Pull my punches, you know what I'm saying? Talking about that.
Yep.
But yeah, we had to talk about the Smashing Machine. Yeah, I go back with The Rock. I'm a big wrestling fan, so I saw him when he first came in, and to see what he's become and the empire that he's built is a magnificent thing. But now he's kind of trying to take it a different direction now. You know, you done heard the criticism, you done heard it all talking shit about his acting. And so let me show y'all what time it is. Let me lay the smack down on y'all candy asses.
There we go. There we go. There we go. Yeah, and you know, it's been getting some mixed criticism out there, you know, but you know, we had the good fortune to go see it. So, you know, we're gonna drop our 2 cents, 10 cents, whatever it's worth. So let's talk about it. So I'm gonna drop the log line real quick.
Yes, sir.
So a peak era MMA, and that's, you know, for those who don't know what that is, that's mixed martial arts phenom battles opponents in the ring and addiction outside it, risking love and legacy as fame collides with pain. And then, you know, it's your classic man versus himself redemption story. You know, he's not just physically broken, but internally broken. And, you know, it's, I think they made a documentary about this back in 2002. And, you know, The Rock was like, you know, let me snatch this up and go ahead and do something with it.
Yes, sir. He did. He's been attached to this, I think, for about 8 years. I want to say maybe 7 or 8 years, something like that. Has been in development because I heard them talking about it on the interview. Yeah.
So, you know, the film starts out with, you know, we see Kerr. You know, he kind of wins his first match, and you know, then he gets hurt. You know, that's kind of like the inciting incident, and then you know we see how dominant he is in the cage, and then he has this love-hate relationship with his girlfriend Dawn.
Oh my God!
Oh, and we're gonna get into that and talk about it. And then, you know, the midpoint is that, you know, he's still fighting, you know, but also he's fighting addiction because when he got hurt, he like really went in on these opioids, and you know, it interrupts his personal life. And then like all hell breaks loose. Yeah. And then, you know, his addiction kind of spirals, and, you know, Dawn's relationship, you know, his relationship with Dawn is strained, you know, his body is breaking down. And then, you know, he collapses in the ring, you know, kind of gives in. You know, we can debate that. I don't know if he like really gives in or is he really a broken man, but, you know, let's talk about it. You know, let's jump into the act. What you think?
And I definitely want to spend a little time on that scene because that was one of my hollers that I think I was hollering for the wrong reason. But
Which one?
So let's start with the acting, right? I'm start with the acting. because I have my opinions on the movie itself and how I think things played out and balancing that between what my expectations were. But as far as the acting, I see why Dwayne and Emily work together. In my opinion, their scenes made this movie for me. I think their scenes and their chemistry, the drama that they displayed, especially when they was going at it, that made the movie for me because that really it resonated with me personally because your support system in anything you do, whether it's acting, sports, business, the person you have behind you is crucial.
Yeah,
it's your love interest, your wife, your spouse, or your life partner, whatever it is. So to see that going through really resonated with me, and it grounded the movie because I ain't MMA and all that. I like the UFC and all, I like combat sports. Obviously, I'm a wrestling fan, but it's to me that's like a fantasy lore. You know what I mean? But what really made it personal was their connection and their interaction and the drama that they had. So they really stole. Well, I won't say stole it. It's their movie, but they really made the movie great to me, in my opinion. Dwayne has been much maligned for some of the choices that he's made. He hasn't challenged himself in years, but I always felt like he had chops because in some of his earlier work, like Gridiron Gang and what's the one where he played the sheriff, Snitch. I thought he had
Snitch was good.
But when you're 6'5", 280,
it's hard to find them roles.
It's hard to find roles that you can just be vulnerable in and be sensitive and show your chops. But this was the perfect vehicle for it because what we saw was the man behind the brawn, the man who had his insecurities, his vulnerabilities, and of course, struggling with addiction. I mean, I don't know anybody that hasn't had some form of addiction in their family or someone close to them who has dealt with addiction. And I thought he really came out shining with this one. This was the perfect vehicle for him to sort of depart from the conquering hero that he's always playing, who relies on his charisma and his looks, to being somebody that really explored his inner depth. So him and Emily, they made the movie for me. What about you?
Yeah, man, I totally agree. We agree there. I think that at some point I forgot that I was watching The Rock.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just
which is hard.
Yeah,
which is hard, right?
Let me take that off. That's hot. Yeah. The Ball brothers are back. So
hey, whatever he was using, we got to figure out how much that was so that we can get it in the budget for our next film.
Yeah, we got to get that, man. We got to get that. But yeah, I forgot that I was watching The Rock for a moment. Like you said, it was hard. And, the prosthetic that they put on head, it almost looked like it was like an AI version of The Rock, but not The Rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it was good. And, he was playing a much softer character, a broken character. And we got to remember that this is a biopic.
Yeah.
This is a real dude, Matt Kerr.
Mark Kerr.
Yeah. Mark Kerr. I'm sorry, Mark Kerr. And The Rock did a great job. If you go back and look at the documentary or you look at some of the footage of Mark Kerr, The Rock was right on point with him. And he even had to put on 30 extra pounds of muscle to do this role. And you're like, all right, he's already big as hell. Like,
yeah. So, so like I said, going back to the wrestling side of it, he usually wrestled in his prime between about 255 to 270. When he last wrestled at not this year's, but the year before's WrestleMania, which is when they were shooting this film, he was so huge. He was about 285, 290.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself as a wrestling fan, like, why the hell is he coming into this match so big? Because you need to be more, nimble and agile in wrestling than in a movie set. But then seeing him now and how massive he was, that's when it clicked for me. And it did, even though we used to seeing him as his muscle-bound hero type, it really did help him disappear into the character with all that extra size. And he looked more like a fighter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I was expecting him to come in and be his usual self, because we see him in Jumanji playing The Rock. I don't know if it was The Rock playing his character in Jumanji or the character in Jumanji playing The Rock. Black Adam, you know, Rock'em Sock'em, you know, all that stuff, you know. But this was a different character. This is a different dude.
Yeah, and you know, I don't understand the criticism sometimes with certain things like that. Like if people value your presence and your charisma and personality that much that they want to pay you the type of money that they was paying him to be himself, you telling me you wouldn't do it? Everybody ain't got to be Daniel Day-Lewis out here, all right? We trying to get
pay me to.
And like I say,
same dude. Yeah,
6'4", 6'5". How much crying do you really want to see this motherfucker do? You want to see some fighting, man?
No, I don't want to do that, man. I don't want to do that. I want to see you beat something up. Throw the building across the street. Yeah. You know, and then there's Emily Blunt, who I am huge fan of Emily Blunt. I was so glad to see her in this film. She did an amazing job.
Yeah.
And she showed how this was a very toxic yet supportive relationship. You know, she could support at one point, and then at the other point it was very toxic, but they were toxic for each other. But it was a very codependent relationship. Like, I need you, but I hate you. And you know, and it was kind of like Mark was not only addicted to these damn pain pills, but he was also addicted to this toxicity. You know, to this relationship.
Yeah, they both needed something from each other that they either couldn't or wouldn't provide. She wanted to be more centered in his life, and for him to be this gladiator to go in there and, you know, put his life and his body on the line, he needed a different type of support. And then when he talked about the addiction, you know, if you're, you know, addicted to something, like, let's not even put it in drugs and alcohol. Let's just say if you and I, you know, we're on diets and we're trying to eat salads and grilled chicken all the time, but your wife is eating ribs and pizza and cheeseburgers in front of you all the time.
What you doing? We doing this together.
Help me out here.
And
that's what she was doing. And she even like threw it up in his face at one point. And I was like, ooh, I can't stand it.
Ooh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, she really nailed it, man. And she looked great too. Like, I didn't know she was good looking like that. I've seen it in so many other roles. I was like, all right, Emily, what's going on?
Emily Blunt, big fan.
By the way, we can see y'all comments. We want you to interact. This is our first live, so if you got some comments or some questions or thoughts on what we're saying, by all means, join us. What's going on, Austin? Appreciate the comments.
Thank you, Austin, for tuning in. That's my son right there.
If you're watching us on Facebook, please go to the YouTube and like and subscribe as well. And then if you're on YouTube right now, you can go to our Facebook pages and like us. That's how you show your support, show your love. Quick click of the buttons, and that's all we need. We appreciate you joining.
That's all you gotta do. We see you watching. That's all you gotta do.
Know what I mean? Get these views up. We're gonna get our merch rolling sooner or later. I know I gotta cut the check. It's all good. I got it coming. Back to what you were saying. Yeah, I think those two, man, they really made the movie.
Yeah, she really anchors the emotional weight, and you know, especially opposite The Rock, and again, it's different to see The Rock. You know, he's a much more caring person. Like, you know, are you okay? Like, even his first fight, you know, he beat the hell out the guy, and he's wondering, like, is the guy all right?
Yeah.
You know, is he going to make it? What's wrong with him? What happened? You just beat the hell out of him. But again,
it's so weird that dichotomy. He really was a soft and sensitive dude in the body of a monster, basically, who, you know, had to go out there and beat the hell out of it at a time when you're not making the type of money that they're making now.
Oh,
you know what
they
I mean?
weren't making.
They're not making millions or hundreds of thousands off of one fight like they do now. This was in its infancy. I think at one point he was only getting $3,000 a fight going over to Japan because he had remember they had the disagreement. He didn't get his whole 3,000. It was like, bro, that's pretty much a plane ticket to Japan.
Yep. But and Benny Safdie as the writer and director, I think he did a great job with the camera work. I mean, there were moments that he held on to the character, and we really got a sense of how they were feeling, you know, and like, you know, the sweat, the bruises, the silences. You know, he holds on those moments so that we can really feel those emotions. But I gotta say, with all that said, I don't know that I truly emotionally connected with the characters, and and you gonna hate me for this.
Maybe not.
And I think it's because I didn't have enough backstory. Like,
okay, all right, yeah. Okay.
For those of us who don't know Mark Kerr, I needed a little bit more information about who this guy was. And I know he's one of the forefathers of the UFC, but I need a little bit more information. It's like you just kind of like dropped this in. It's almost like I came into the movie late. I went to get my popcorn and came in and said, "Oh, damn, I missed a couple scenes." So, you know, that's kind of how I'm feeling about it.
Damn. Thank you, Nico, for the comment. We're gonna get to that in a second. Yeah, so now let's get to the parts that I felt were a little weird about too with the film that I think, I don't know, maybe it's my own lack of understanding or my expectations of it. But yeah, I did go into it, and they did say at the beginning, they had it, you know, in the written type that this
from
takes
1997
between 1997 and I guess 2001 or something like that, 2002.
Yeah.
So it was like more, it wasn't as much of a biopic to me in that instance as it was a snapshot in this moment in time. So I guess it was a purposeful choice not to give us that backstory, but I would have also have liked a little bit, you know, like, how did you get here? You know what I mean? It's kind of like rolling up in the traffic and you see an accident and you see what's going on in that moment, but what did you do? What caused this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was just like too much like, okay, you had a fight, you got hurt, and then just the addiction just comes just from that. Usually it's something else more to trigger that downward spiral. And I would have liked to have a little insight to that as well. But different kind of style, different kind of director. So maybe that was the plan. And like I say, and that leads me to, going to Nico's question. I don't know if we want to jump to the end right now, but yeah, it didn't feel like a complete view of one man's life, more so than just a period of time.
It was. Yeah, I mean, we can jump to the end. You know, we saw. It's gonna be spoiler alerts throughout this whole thing. We give spoilers. So yeah, you know, in the end, you know, he loses the match. But does he lose on purpose? Does he lose on purpose because he doesn't want to fight his boy, or is he really having an emotional reckoning, and he's just like, I'm really frozen and I can't move?
I did not like that at all, because that was pretty much the same way he lost that first fight with the knees and everything. And we've gone through this training montage of you getting better and all that. Then you kind of lose the same way, and it's like, again, trying to rewire the brain to what we're used to seeing from The Rock and maybe other biopics. Is like there was no triumphant moment here where his, like, you know, and then he's just in the shower and smiling, and like you say, did he want this or why is he happy? And then it's just cut to the goddamn grocery store, and I'm like, like what the fuck?
you cut to the grocery store and see the real dude, and you're like, wait a minute, hold on, wait. Did I just miss something? You know, I think the moment where he was in the shower was kind of like almost like his baptism. He was becoming a new person. He was letting go of the anger, and water is always a great symbol, for a metaphor for cleansing, renewing, and stuff like that. But then just to cut to the grocery store and see this new dude, like,
and then to tell us, they do the written part where it says he kept fighting, a few more years after
the epilogue,
and it was just like, well, I wanted to see him finish on top, or at least not finish at that moment with the disappointment. And I get what you're saying. Maybe he had this realization of, I'm better now. I'm handling the loss better than I would, because I think in the first part when he lost, it contributed to the downward spiral and the toxicity with the relationship. So maybe that was his moment of clarity where he was like, it's not the end of the world. I took the L. but I'm still me. I'm still, you know, whatever you want to say, happy, joy. And then cutting to the grocery store, maybe that's to let you know that he did, you know, find his way to normalcy. Maybe I guess that's what's the point of that.
He survived himself. Yeah.
I mean, you the screenwriter. You telling me, is that what you
Yeah. He survived himself. And I kept wanting so bad. You know, I wanted him to face his boy. If this had not been a biopic, I think, you know, of course, it would have been written differently. It would have been, okay, the Marks are battling for it. You know, his boy is Mark Coleman and he is Mark Kerr, you know, and we would have seen like an ultimate, you know, rock'em sock'em beatdown, you know, an ultimate fight. Yeah. But again, this is this man's true life. Yeah. And we didn't get what we wanted. We got exactly what happened. And I think I think Mark Kerr probably was very close to the writer and director and just said, no, you know, I really want you to stick close to exactly what happened, you know, in our life. Don't add anything else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I think that probably contributed to us feeling the way we do about not having backstory. You know, it's missing something. It's kind of like you're almost in the ring with two boxers and they just circling each other, but they're not really landing any haymakers. Like, this isn't a haymaker movie, you know?
Yeah. No.
It just kind of like,
Yeah, the fighting, even though they show the fights, it's almost like the fighting is secondary.
Yes.
Maybe not even secondary, but like just, oh yeah, he fights, but this is his real fight.
It's really about
and the drugs and all of that.
Yeah, it's really about his internal struggle, which I love that. I love flawed characters, and Emily Blunt, or Dawn, was a very flawed character. You know, these are the type of characters that I like to write, that I like to read about in screenplays. But other than that
last scene, bro, when she tries to off herself, that whole scene,
unalive herself.
Everybody talking about Oscar bait or whatever. Just send that scene. Just send that scene, because that's the one that had me like, God damn.
Yeah,
like they really went there, man. And
and I don't want to give it up to them, but that was one of my howlers. I was
like, because you didn't think it was gonna go there. It was like he asked her to leave. I thought maybe she might slap him or he slap her or something like that. But for them to go from 0 to 100 like that. That was off the chain.
But that was honestly probably the best scene of the movie, because that got us. It was the saddest yet the best scene of the movie, because it got us emotionally involved. It was like, yo, don't do this, and don't let her do this. Y'all got to figure out a way to make this work, or either you gotta amicably split. But don't go out like this, self-aliving, you know, unaliving yourself, you know, in this way, or at all. Why are you just smiling at me, man? What happened? Essex, I think you froze up, bro. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are having technical difficulties. You will now be entertained by the Wig, who was this was the true star of the entire movie right here. And he had been waiting for his moment since Scorpion King. Are you back? Nope. He had been waiting for his moment to make a return since the Scorpion King. And he got dusted off and got a reboot. And here he is as the new star. Absolutely. You want to tell them about some of the parts that happened? Dwayne had a big forehead, and it was really hard to stay glued to his head during the entire match. I was so glad that when Act 3 came, he was able to shave me off, and I could go back into the warehouse where I belong. Okay, thank you for that interview, Wig. We will now try to return to our normal discussion about this film. All right, I'm back. So, in a nutshell, the film was fine. I enjoyed it. Some of my hollers, I'll go ahead and get mine out while Essex is doing what he's doing. Some of my hollers, we normally do this. What kind of made you holler? The things that made me holler, the early brutality. It was deep. The painkillers. When he OD'd, it was kind of like, oh man, you got to stop with this. Don't OD. And then he's in the hospital and his teeth are missing. I was like, damn, he OD'd and fell so hard that he knocked his damn teeth out. I don't think they had a good dental plan back then for him, so I don't know how he got the new teeth. And then, of course, the relationship blow-ups with Dawn, that was just ridiculous. The moment that she went to Japan and she showed up, and it just kind of like took the air out the room. Like, what is she doing here? Nobody wants her here. And then, of course, like Essex and I were talking about, the Piron scene where, Dawn pulls it out in the middle of a fight. And let's see, what else? And then the last, and then Kerr's collapse in the ring. Like, I was hollering at that moment, like, did he really give in because he wanted to see his boy? Oh, there you go. My bald brother and brother is back. Are you here? Nope, he froze again. He just got that cool thinking pose. So we're gonna let Essex think for a little minute. But yeah, the all is lost moment where Rock just kind of gives in to himself. I was hollering at the screen like, okay, dude.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you. You disappearing again. So, the themes in this movie, the takeaways, it really talked about, addiction is really a true opponent. And like Essex said earlier, if you probably know people in your family that have suffered with addiction in the past, or maybe even suffering with addiction right now, you got to give them some type of grace because, and I always say this with my family, if a person is in, if they're in a type of mindset where the addiction is taken over, you got to give them some type of grace because they're just trying to really come up out of it. And then, it's the man versus the myth, Kerr's split identity, is he really a beast in the ring or is he, a real calm guy? And then, again, he had a toxic relationship with Dawn, but it was like he was addicted to that toxic relationship, almost like it fueled him. So, is love considered an addiction? And was it really love? Oh, you back? I'm just sitting here just talking. Can you hear me? Nope. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, keep riding.
Can you hear me?
Bro. I don't know what's going on. I can hear you, yeah.
You can hear me, but you can't see me.
God, man. This is fucking pissing me off.
Can you hear me? And I'm back. Here we go. All right. So addiction, love is addiction, and sports deconstruction. What are you willing to give up? For the cost. And I think we saw a couple of sports movies this year. We saw F1. with Brad Pitt, and then we saw him, which we just did a review of not too long ago, a couple weeks ago. It was a sports movie as well. You know, what are you willing to sacrifice for glory? And I enjoy these sports movies coming out because it gives us a different perspective about what the athletes truly have to go through to make it to become, you know, top in their field. So let's take some more questions from the audience here. It's a life story of what you are willing to sacrifice. Exactly. Thank you, Joni. True, true, true. Maria asks, what do you think the real Mark Kerr? Why do you think the real Mark Kerr was laughing in the end? I think he was laughing in the end because he had been a broken man and he realized that he didn't need this sport to be the person that he needed to become. Again, it's a redemption story. He had to heal himself within and then, you know, heal his body later. So, hopefully that answers your question. How closely to Mark Kerr's real life does this storyline follow? I think it follows it very, very closely. There was a documentary that came out in 2002, and I think that Mark Kerr, I think he was a bit upset at the documentary because of how it portrayed Dawn. So I think he worked very closely with the writer and director here and probably said, these are the points that I want you to hit. And please, you know, don't go any further. So I think it was very close. Let's see. Exactly what I was telling my dad. Yes. What could be the next step in the future of sports movies? You know, that's a great question, Austin. I think I would love, honestly, I would love to see a Kobe Bryant biopic. I don't know if we're ready for that yet, but I would love to see some of our heroes in other sports, because we've seen this one, we've seen him, and we've seen again F1 this year, and then last year they came out with a wrestling biopic about the I forgot the last name, but Essex would know the name of the wrestling family. But yeah, I think that we're probably going to see more sports films, and it's good because we truly have to understand what these athletes go through. And I can hear you. I can hear you. Oh, well, I think I hear myself. Oh, well, I think I hear myself. All right. Do you think there would be space made for female films like this? Yeah, we saw Clarissa Shield. I think she had a biopic. She's a beast in boxing right now, and she had a film out a couple years ago. I can't think of what the name was, but yeah, she's a beast, and I think that we will see more female films, especially with the way the WNBA is blowing up right now. I think that we will probably see some biopics coming out of that. I would love to see a biopic on Dawn Staley. She's the coach of the South Carolina USC Gamecocks. I think that will be a great biopic as well. Mercedes, yeah, I agree. Yep, Kobe biopic, but I don't know who could actually step into Kobe's shoes and play him. I don't know that there isn't. I'm sure there's an actor out there, but I don't know who that actor could be. All right. Who else has questions? Dawn is amazing. Dawn is amazing. And, she was a flawed wife. Flawed girlfriend, but she was also his support system. She was everything to him. And like Essex said, she wanted to be the center of his universe, but she was competing with not only his drugs, but also his life as an MMA fighter. And she just wanted to know that she was the center of his world. But I know a couple of some time ago, I was going to trying to do a reality show about wrestlers, and happened to speak with some of the spouses of wrestlers. So I got some inside information, not inside information, but some insight as to like what they have to deal with being the spouses of, or being a spouse of a wrestler, what they have to endure, you know, the broken bones, the long nights, you know, the pain. Like, they have to be there to put that person back together, and the audience does not see that. So yeah, I commend Dawn for what she did. She was a little toxic, a little out there, but you know, that's what happened. All right. Who is the best producer you've ever known? The best producer. Right now, I would say Jordan Peele, with the exception of this film him. Jordan Peele, Martin Scorsese, but you know, of course, you know, a lot of times those producers have their hands, you know, in a couple of other areas, you know, whether they be writers and directors, you know, also. But yes, it's quite a few great producers that are out there. Let's see. Any other questions? Okay. If not, we will go ahead and end this. You know, for this film, I'm going to give it 3.5 hollers. I'm not going to give it 4. I think the last review that we did, I gave that one 4. I'm going to give this one 3.5. And that's primarily because of the acting between Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson. I can't even say The Rock, because this was Dwayne Johnson truly acting. So yeah, I'm going to give it 3.5 hollers, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. Essex, I hope you're okay over there on the other side. And please stay tuned for other reviews that we do. All right, I'll holla. Peace.